guys, you're watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, episode 2, and today we are going to review OMG Oh My God, starring Paresh, Rawal, and Akshay Kumar. It's a feature film that came out in 2012, I believe.
Yep, based on a play. Pretty popular play.
Okay. And for those who haven't seen it yet, it's spoilers abound, just like in all the rest of our reviews. But this film is about an atheist challenging I'm trying to look. What am I looking for? Just the regard that everybody has in the country for religion and God, and he ends up finding religion himself because of this. It's a little more complicated than that, but
yeah, he owns a shop. His shop gets destroyed,
and then the insurance company doesn't want to pay it because there's a
act
clause.
Of God.
There's a clause in his contract. This is an act of God, which is a cheap way.
And it doesn't get covered, and that's a real thing that happens all the time here in the States. But
well, in the States too, you have to get specific insurance. Like if you live in a place with a lot of hurricanes, you have to get hurricane insurance.
Right.
In California, you'd have to get earthquake insurance, except nobody offers earthquake insurance here, so you're screwed if there's an earthquake.
And that would be considered an act of God.
Yeah.
And that would be basically nothing caused by man. And so he decides to bring God to court and sue God.
And the other reason why he even brings God to court is because he's just trying to get his money back so he can get his life back in order, because he starts to lose everything. The shop goes under, people are trying to take his house from him. Yeah,
because he curses God and says it's all bullshit.
Yeah,
like if this is real, come strike me down now, type thing, and nothing happens. So he's always doubling down. He's constantly doubling down until he reaches the point where he can't double down, and that's when Akshay comes in and kind of saves the day.
Yes,
but we'll get into that in a little bit later. So throughout the video, we're going to be talking about a few different categories, specifically directing, acting, editing, cinematography, the soundtrack, and the story of the film. And each of these points will funnel in to create our final score at the end of the movie. That it basically adds it all up. But yeah, so we should just start off with the good, because, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you got to start first with the good. So what did you enjoy about this movie?
I enjoyed the way they used religion in this. Like, even though his main attack was Hinduism, it still felt like he took from every other religion a lot. And it was very, very general. And Akshay Kumar's character especially was like, I'm this God, I'm that God.
He never really, even though he plays Krishna,
exactly. But he says in the movie, like,
I'm everybody.
To Muslim, I'm Allah. To Christians, I'm this and that.
Which is I feel like that's a very profound message.
Yes, absolutely. And I enjoyed how it didn't feel, not to already compare it to PK, but it didn't feel as one-sided as PK did in regards to, like, dealing with religion and the different religions in the country.
I like that he was an atheist.
Yeah.
I like the main guy.
I like that.
And they went with it. They committed. They didn't double down. They didn't, like, backtrack or, like, soften it up. Like,
no.
He was pretty much...
No, he didn't believe in anything, and he was, like, very clear about it,
He made sure everybody knew.
Exactly.
Everybody knew that
exactly. Except for the people that he was selling statues to.
Right. And even to the point where he was willing to, like, make fun of the other religions publicly. Like, when he went to... Because they were doing that dance, and he went down there to say, oh, you need to offer them all milk and all this stuff, and... It's not what the other guy was saying,
right?
But it was just so they can, like, leave. Was you're very committed.
Yes,
very committed
absolutely.
atheist.
And I like that's how he was. That's just his thing. Like, this is so much of an inconvenience to him that he ruined an entire festival. He had his assistant or whoever the chubby guy was go and pull all the cables out of the PA
so he
could lie to people and say, "Go feed the statue." Butter right now, milk and butter right now. He loves it, and that's what.
And I did like how Akshay later on, when he comes, he's actually eating the butter.
Yeah,
like,
he ate all of the butter.
That was a nice little plant and payoff. That was nice. That was good. But you're gonna mention, you're talking about Akshay's. You're gonna say something.
Oh, I really liked his performance because it was real subtle. It was relaxed, and it was a good representation of God. Like, in my mind, if God were ever to come back to Earth, he wouldn't be like this loud, angry. He'd just be like really chill and just like try to like listen to you. He's that guy that just listens to you, and he's like, okay, is that what you think? All right. Well, that's not really what I'm about. And I get it. I get why you're upset. But
he's so calm that you get angry with him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so calm.
Exactly.
And you're not getting a rise out of him.
And that's how, I feel like that's how your religious people should be. Like, he's so above you that nothing you can say will rattle him or piss him off.
I did absolutely enjoy Akshay's performance. And as I've said in previous videos, he's Akshay Kumar.
Right.
This one he's Krishna, and Padmani was Padma, but he's still Akshay Kumar.
Yeah.
So, and I know this is your first experience with him at all in a movie.
Right.
So, did you feel like he lived up to anything?
No, I thought he was great. He's very charming.
Yeah.
Very charming. I could see why he's a star.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's why I was
There's
asking.
an appeal for sure.
That's why
he
gets
did.
cast
He
in
had a
these things.
charisma on screen that nobody else had. That's for
and
sure.
he's not doing very much. It's
no,
just
exactly.
his smile,
And
it's
even
just
the
way
lead actor, like he had a solid performance, but he wasn't charismatic. Like it wasn't, and I don't know how much of that was character driven.
I don't know either, because he's so. He was. We've never seen him in anything. I don't think any trailer, anything. So he was a huge good for me, for sure. I really enjoyed his performance from beginning to end, like how his character, not necessarily how the arc of his character, and I'll get into that in the bad, but just how committed they were to him and all that stuff. I also enjoyed the way they used the act of God clause, which you kind of briefly touched upon, and how he was able from Jump Street, like once he heard this act of God clause, he was able to go. He went to the lawyer's place and then slapped the shit out of him and told him it was an act of God. With like that whole sequence, because he's like, "Oh, so do you believe God is in all of us?"
Grabbing the rifle too.
The shot, yeah. but he asked me like, "Do you believe?" He was asking the lawyer or the insurance agent, "Do you believe in God?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." "Do you believe God is in all of us?" "Yeah, of course." "And him and him and him?" "Yeah, duh." "And me too, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And then that's when he slaps him, and he's like, "This is an act of God right there. You can't do anything about it." And then, like, there's little jokes like that throughout the movie, which I enjoy.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like there is a certain absurdity to religion, any religion.
Yeah.
And that's one of the good things I enjoy about this movie is it highlights a lot of it. It highlights a lot of the hypocrisy of not religion necessarily, but the people.
Well, organized, the
of
organization of religion and the shady stuff that a lot of people seem to turn a blind eye to.
And 100%. Pay for this and your family will be cured, except the mom died 2 days
Nobody,
later.
like here in the States, you don't
get your money back.
No, you don't. And here in the States, obviously we're mostly, it was founded by Christians, so it's a Christian nation for the most part. And, you'll go to these churches where poor people are giving tithes, and the tithe is you donating 10% of your salary to the church, and the preacher is driving like a brand new Cadillac. He's got nice suits. Like
you're in a mega church sometimes.
Yeah, the church is huge. It's like, just the epitome of idolatry.
Doesn't matter how much you earn, doesn't matter how much you might need to survive. 10% right off the top.
No.
And what does that go to?
And it's poor people too, because wealthy people don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And what does that go to though?
No, it goes right into their pockets.
Well, wealthy people spend millions. I won't go to names, but someone spent $25 million to build a church at USC.
Well, yeah, but that was also to have it in his name.
Yeah.
It was more of a look at me, I have my own church center thing more than it was like.
But it's fucked up. I mean, just plain and simple, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because out of every freaking entity in the world, religious organizations do not need the money. They're the ones who don't need the money.
No, they don't pay taxes anymore, right?
They don't. It's just whether it's Islam or Christianity or any religion, they don't need your offerings.
And we see that in this film. We see that the Swami is like living fine. He's got people dropping rose petals at his feet.
He's walking on those blocks because his feet can't touch the grass.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, come on, man.
Absolutely. He's living better than everyone else. You can absolutely tell. And was it Kanji?
Yeah,
Kanji has a huge issue with that, and he's pointed out, like, dude, like, you got beggars outside your church, and you're wanting people to pray for them instead of just giving them the things they're donating.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you and I have talked about homelessness in this country a few times, and any of the churches could solve homelessness today if they decided to open their doors, spend some money to build some shelters, rehabilitate them, make them find God, whatever they might be. They could easily do it.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
How much money they have. I mean, it's a real corrupt system, and that's why, to bring it back to this movie, that's one of the good things I enjoyed about it, is it just called them on their bullshit.
Right.
In court too, so there was actually like arguments from both sides.
That was the best part about his character, was everything was like really. You could tell the dude was like very straight line thinker. Everything he thought was like,
It wasn't obtuse, and it wasn't all over the place.
It wasn't like
super practical.
Yeah, he wasn't like super intellectual either. It was just very like logic based. Like, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense.
And it makes sense why he would gain a following too, because he was just calling people on the bullshit.
Because a common man was relating to him. So the other thing I liked about the movie was I think I like the music in this way. Maybe not exact like the tunes per se, but the way the music was used was
it felt very traditional.
Yeah.
But it felt like I was getting something new.
It was straightforward, and it didn't like. There weren't songs in there just to have songs in there. Maybe
the Govinda song.
Right, and that song was in there. That whole music video was a little odd, but the way they cut around it made it work.
Because it was supposed to be at this festival.
Exactly, and they kept cutting back to him going and doing his thing.
No, I enjoyed that. That's a good for me. That whole I mean, just the way to sidebar for a second, just the way that shit was shot, the way it was edited, the way that the stakes kind of continued to like evolve.
Right.
It wasn't just a simple like let's do some dance. Like by the end, they're trying to like break that thing open.
And in my mind, I was picturing your face on the guy because I want to see you doing some of those movies.
I could I'm not gonna lie. I did write it down that I should probably look at that as a reference.
Okay, yeah.
Because like there was some good like choreography there, which I thought it was pretty simple, but it was just I don't know, it just worked.
So I like the way they used the music, the Go Govinda song again when Krishna's character shows up on the scene. It was used well, and it made him seem like larger than life. Like that's what I liked about it more than anything is when the song played. Like you knew he was important.
It also kind of validated the whole idea that these people who were doing it in the beginning were doing it for a reason.
Right,
exactly. That song actually is important.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's a traditional song. I'm assuming it was made for the movie, but it was nice. It definitely was nice. I enjoyed the fact that every time the music was used, it was used for, other than that one long song, it was used for like transitional montage.
Right.
Like, here's a character. Let's talk about his exposition moments, but we'll just show you as we're like singing. I'm completely okay with that. You're completely okay with that. It's when you start breaking into song and dance.
I'm okay with montage.
Minutes.
I'm not okay with singing and dancing to the camera. And
exactly, because we in American films, it's very common to have musical montage.
Right.
Even with the narration. And
exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
When you go full on musical, that's where it starts to.
That's where I'm not a fan.
Because it other than Three Idiots so far, it's rubbed me almost the wrong way almost every time.
Right. And it was a good it's one of those times where it's good to see the lyrics on the screen because you're like, okay, you get the point of the song, and this is like the first time I really I was like, oh, okay, I get it, I get the song, why they're using this song here, why they're telling you that.
Yeah, no, I mean, usually
it really explained the character and what his purpose was, and
it's important to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because it's a very delicate. It's a very delicate story where if they were to go off in any direction, it could derail the whole thing. Because it's such a sensitive subject matter that if you go too comical, all of a sudden it makes it seem like you're doing a satire farce. But if you do too serious,
and I think there was definitely some satirical elements.
Absolutely.
For sure. But
even with the statue scene when he's selling it.
And that's something I also liked as well. That they did not pull any punches. Like they did not care if they were going to offend.
Everything was downing. Everything was doubling down. Everything.
All the way, like the attacks
from literally
everything.
Start to finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Even at the end when everyone's on his side and he has to basically become like a Moses-like character. I mean, that's what I related it to.
Right.
Where he was like, no, you got to destroy this crap. You got to destroy all.
And starts his own riot.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. That was funny.
But I mean, for me, that's a lot of the goods. I really don't have anything else to add. I mean, I'm sure I could think of little moments here or there which I thought were funny.
Yeah.
I think that I enjoyed the courtroom scenes here more than I did in Pink.
Right.
They felt more traditional. I don't know
absolutely.
how accurate.
It was a little more straightforward. It wasn't as melodramatic for sure. It was it was short.
It was short.
They weren't
shortened to the.
I guess drawn out. That was a big issue with Pink. It just the courtroom scenes just felt really drawn out, and the whole movie was about these courtroom scenes.
Right, exactly.
And that's why.
And not to say Pink's bad, but I just for me, they utilized the court perfectly here.
Right.
Could have done more, I'm sure, but for the most part,
it was solid. It was good.
Yeah. For me, the bad was definitely the way the movie ended. I was not a fan of its just abrupt nature and how he finds God. I felt like for a movie that was not pulling any punches back, to have a nice, sweet, romantic ending just felt.
I mean, it was. It definitely used.
Felt like
there was definitely a funny, ironically enough, no pun intended, a Deus Ex Machina.
Literally.
Moment. Yeah. In it. And that, yeah, that was a little too much, you know, like.
Because it was so grounded.
Right, exactly. And then all of a sudden, like, he gets out of his coma and he gets healed, you know, which is, I mean,
the keychain and
yeah, exactly. It was just a little, it was a little too on the nose and just a little.
It almost felt like the screenwriters were like, "Oh shit, we need to end this movie.
Right.
How can we tie it up real neatly?
Let's just use it the easiest way."
Yeah.
It was the easy way out, and I mean, maybe we're being a little harsh in that regard.
I'm sure. I mean, it wasn't the worst.
No,
just
but it was
wasn't
it
good.
was definitely like it was simple. It was the easy way out. It was like very like predictable. You know, like you know he wasn't gonna die.
Right.
Although I did like how it was spun like, hey man, if you die, they're gonna turn you into the thing that you were completely against.
I love that. I 100% love that.
And that was great.
Because they was like, yeah, they're gonna turn an idol, a shrine into you. They're gonna do this, and he's like, oh
Right.
shit, I can't die then. I need to.
Exactly.
And I love that. That was in his character. That's why like I was very intrigued to see where the ending was gonna go.
Exactly.
I guess the simplicity is what bothered me the most. It wasn't the fact that the ending was bad per se. Like he could find God. That's fine.
Like I said, it was predictable. It was easy.
It's just it was easy.
It was easy.
And I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't like terrible. It didn't ruin the movie. It didn't derail the movie.
Right.
It just wasn't as good as everything that came before it. It's disappointing to not have a solid.
No, I
ending.
get you. I mean, that's the toughest thing to do for almost everybody out there. The ending is always hard to get.
It is tough.
That perfect ending. Something else that I found bad was just the tertiary characters, like the supporting cast in this film.
They were all weak.
They were just non-existent almost.
They were super underdeveloped.
They were cardboard cutouts. They were
100%
cardboard cutouts, you know, and we focus on the main, which is fine. You know, we focus on the main guy. We focus on his main enemy per se, and that was that.
It could have been better.
Absolutely. You could have developed a little more
family life at home.
It would have it would have given it a little more depth.
Yep.
That's all. It's shallow, right where it was at.
Because the wife kind of was just like,
she was just kind of there. She was just kind of
hey,
scolding
you
him
shouldn't
here
be
and
doing this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then he would
the relationship with the kids was almost non-existent.
Yeah, so I mean that would have made a very very three-dimensional
And you have that
story.
cheesy scene where she's like at a cafe or something with her friends, and then people cheer, and that's my dad. After she was like,
that's what it is. That's what I wrote down.
That was bad.
That's what I wrote down. I wrote down bad, like that's my dad, and I forgot what the scene was, but that's what it was.
All right.
That was super cheesy. Yeah, I wrote it was. It's just little moments like that.
It was just underdeveloped.
She went from
It wasn't developed at all.
Yeah, she went from not like this is not like my father to all of a sudden he's saying good things and now he cares. Like she cares. I mean, it was very bland. Like
you didn't
said.
feel that familial connection that we felt in other films for sure. Like
because you could have easily, especially in Indian film, it's kind of disappointing because like almost all of them have very very a strong sense of family.
Right. Exactly.
To the point where I would have loved to seen their at-home conversations where the wife maybe said, "Hey, you can't do this. Like, you have to."
Yeah.
Stop. Or maybe she supports him backdoor. Like, I understand
And
you do this in private, but in public, but you don't get any of that.
No,
you don't
and that's the weakness in this film. That's a bad part, especially because the character itself, our lead character, although he had a lot of great qualities about him, there comes a certain point where it just seems like he doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Asshole.
He's just very selfish, and that weakens it for me a little bit. Like
I agree, 100%. So to me, that those are bad. I mean, because it's a script problem.
Yeah,
a script problem is a production problem is a
it's a directing problem too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah.
I really wasn't a fan of Akshay's introduction, but specifically because it shifted the tone for me. As soon as he got introduced, I mean, maybe it's because people.
Well, it goes back to losing it, the groundedness.
That's what happened.
Like it was very grounded. Everything felt logical. Everything felt like real. And then he just Deus Ex Machina, and it shows up.
But it's not even that. It's just almost.
Why on a motorcycle too?
Like, well, that's an ugly, and we'll get to that in a second. But my thing is, why? Why did we? Was that the? I mean, is it because it's just based on the story, the play?
No, I think that's like a parable right there. That's definitely an allegory. Like the most atheist man out there is the man that you want to prove like, no, you're wrong. Especially this guy, like he was not believing for shit, and no matter what you presented to him, he had a comeback. He had a reason to doubt and say no, and I think that was important. And I think that's why he needed to show up. And that's why he's only showing up to him. You know, the guy that believed the least is the only person that could see it.
It's not even that was the problem. I guess it's just maybe it's just Akshay's casting. Maybe it's just too much of a star.
Okay, that's fair.
And no one else is a star.
I can.
I don't know. Just something shifted for me.
I can accept that.
It became a different movie after that point.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. Like to me, that was bad.
But
I can't
think the
identify
same thing happened
what,
in the trailer when we watched it. When Akshay
well, that's
shows
the thing.
up.
I think I was gonna say that maybe the trailer spoiled it for me, because maybe people who watched this the first time didn't know Akshay was a god. And so, like, when they were watching these scenes, they were with him, our lead, and they just assumed he's a normal human who's, like, superpowers or something. Super abilities to, like, drive a motorcycle really well.
Or he was crazy.
Yeah, or something. But, you know, like, for the most part, I didn't care for it. I mean, I'll stop there with that. But I didn't like the supporting cast, like we had mentioned we mentioned the family, but I'm talking about like the religious leaders.
Right.
They didn't really add anything. They didn't have any dimensionality. I mean, unlike PK, where I felt like because you were seeing multiple different people within the families of the characters we're following, like go to these other temples and things like that, and you see PK like going to see the absurdities of all these temples and all that stuff. It felt more like religion had a say in the movie. Yeah. In this one, it was kind of shitting on religion, and there really wasn't a lot of retorting to defend religion.
Well, because
that came from anyone
and you didn't
from
see
Akshay.
you didn't see the interactions with them either. You just saw the people at the temples and stuff like that, but not necessarily them. You know, other than like the introduction of the Swami character, where he, you know, where we mentioned him walking on the cobblestones and the rose petal thing.
There wasn't. I guess my thing, what I was trying to say is the bad is there wasn't a huge counterpoint for religion.
No.
It was all. It was basically all of like what you had in your mind pre-existing going into it.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
Akshay was.
Right.
But the bad guys definitely.
They didn't.
They were thin. They were paper thin.
Yeah. There's some weird editing choices in there. I wouldn't say like all the editing was bad, but there's a lot of jump cuts unnecessarily that I didn't understand.
Yeah,
why.
and I'm gonna say some of the cinematography / direction was also a little not the best.
A lot of unmotivated zooms.
Yes, exactly. There was a lot of questionable shot selections, and like, why did you decide to use it? Because it was overused as well. Like I remember the very first court scene, they kept zooming in on all the religious leaders, like zoom.
Because they want that. The director wanted that impact.
But it was one of those things where if you use it too much, it loses the impact, and if it's not set up properly, it also 100% loses its impact. It's unmotivated. That's the best way of describing it. Like if you're gonna use these fancy shots or these different shots, you have to set them up and give them motivation, because if not, it just looks like we always talk about like film school.
Yeah, they're film school shots. Like they look cool.
Film school shot. Exactly.
You pull that shot out of the movie and you're like, oh man, that's a nice zoom. That's a nice dolly, and that's a nice crane.
And a quick aside, I call it a film school shot because you always had these classmates who, instead of trying to develop their story and make the best story possible, they would spend half a day trying to get that one shot that involved
that wasn't really me.
A lot of stuff, like set up a dolly shot and for what? And it's going to be 5 seconds in your film, but you spent half the day doing it. I'm not saying this is what happened with this one, but definitely no motivation. And it almost seemed like, I just want this here because it looks cool, and it doesn't work.
Yep. And anytime because it looks cool is the answer for like why you have a certain shot there,
it's the wrong answer.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Unless you're Michael Bay or you're doing some big movie and it's like, because I have money, because I'm Michael Bay, I'll do whatever I want.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, that's a real thing too.
People doing shots for it to look cool and not considering the budget they have in mind. Like, you're ruining your film because you can't afford to do it. Michael Bay can afford to do it. So Scorsese can afford to do it. So they can do whatever they want. They have the money to cover that. But that's for another day.
Exactly. Okay, so my ugly, I mean, it's the really only big major moment where I just started laughing and I couldn't take it seriously, and maybe this is why I did say it was bad previously, and it was that motorcycle scene. The stakes leading up to that, where he's being chased and everything, everyone's after him, I enjoyed it 100%, because it finally culminated to this moment that it was a pretty impactful series of events that led here. And then a motorcycle comes out, he rolls down the side of the building, and it's like, what is he, Batman? Like, what is this? It was ridiculous. It was just, it was dumb. It was dumb. I don't care what anyone says, it was dumb. and it completely shifted the tone. It completely broke everything. There has to be a better way to illustrate how powerful he is, other than doing this stupid motorcycle scene where he's on the bridge and he stops and I don't know. Maybe if I was a child, I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean,
as
I'm
an
sure
adult,
it seemed like a good idea at the time. Like, wouldn't it be really cool? That's what it really, what it was is wouldn't it be really cool moment?
if Akshay just came down on a motorcycle and then saved the day. And
like, you were hanging out with your buddies, everybody's drunk and high, and you start coming up with the scenario. You come up with Tusk. You do what Kevin Smith did.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a guy who made someone into a walrus in his basement?
We did a horror movie about turning humans into walruses. That'd be really cool.
That's Tusk. That's Kevin Smith's movie.
It was terrible, but
it was very. It just didn't fit anything.
Yeah.
I mean, even after that movie, you never really saw Akshay do anything that crazy again. I mean, other than taking his form at the very, very end.
Right.
I mean, but that makes sense. The motorcycle bit the CGI was terrible too. Apparently that motorcycle was like $1 million plus bike though.
Really?
I looked it up, yeah.
Huh.
But still, I mean, did you feel the same, or did it not bother you?
It didn't bother me as much as it did you, but it was definitely a bit odd.
Would you say it's an ugly?
A
blemish? Like if you were recommending this, you'd be like, "There's a little scene in the middle where it might."
No, I'm not. I wouldn't put it ugly for me. It didn't bother me that much.
Do you have any uglies?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. Like just the performances from the religious people in general.
The dude with the terrible
just
long
terrible
hair.
performances, like really over the top and just not.
I agree.
I
didn't like how he was like the master.
Yeah,
he tried to do some like
he did that hand
Star
thing.
Wars thing where it's like
yeah.
He's trying to be a Jedi. Like, don't talk about it.
Exactly. Like, it just wasn't.
I get the concept.
Right.
I understand the concept.
It was just over the top. It was too much. It wasn't a good.
You would assume that his,
especially when you when you juxtapose it against the lead character.
Absolutely.
He was like, I won't say the lead character's performance was great for me, but it was like he was in the pocket. He was like a drummer
he filled his
that
thing.
Doesn't miss a beat. He's on the beat. He doesn't do fancy fills and stuff, but he's in the pocket. It was solid all the way through.
Consistent.
It was
You
reliable.
can't hate
consistent.
on it. Yeah.
Not at all.
These other people,
No.
because you would think, like the main guy with the long hair, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but you would think his lackeys would be informed enough where he wouldn't have to do this like every 5 seconds or whatever. Like you'd have to.
And I just didn't buy that they kept looking to him because they never built that
in court.
Yeah, exactly.
In court.
That was not a built relationship either. And maybe this is a thing that people were talking about, like since we're not familiar with the religion. Maybe.
But does that mean that religions buy the courts too?
I don't know.
Because I feel like
all I'm saying is it was like. I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy the relationship. I did not like the performance. I thought it was one of the weakest parts of the film.
And it wasn't just the Hindus. It was like everyone, like the Christians who came in and the people who represented it.
Absolutely.
Like it just felt odd.
Yeah.
Like every time they were on screen,
wasn't right.
It was a tonal thing.
Yeah.
They didn't fit the grounded nature of the movie.
No, not at all.
Not it just that they were the movie villains in this
Absolutely.
movie.
And then the other ugly thing for me was the green screen. And they didn't use it a lot.
When he was like, there was a scene after his building collapses and there's like the storm in the background.
There's that, or like when he like ends the festival and the storm starts.
I think we're talking about the same scene. Yeah.
You could tell there was a green screen there. And it just wasn't done well at all. And then going back to the Akshay motorcycle scene, there was also green screen behind him there as well, and it just didn't. Whoever did the VFX on that, it was bad. It was noticeable.
I'm sure now the movie might look better, but it was bad. Like just the motorcycle going down the fucking building was terrible. Like that scene really just bothered me. It just because you could have spent a little more time to be a little more creative.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously you can't go in there. Akshay couldn't go in there and just beat the shit out of everybody. Like a karate movie. You can't do that. You know, but there is a way. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I can't come up with anything. Maybe the motorcycle was the only way.
Well, no, it could have been something subtle. It could have been him appearing and like, hey, come this way.
It could have
hiding
been.
him.
Literally, that would have been way better.
Making a mystical path open, but us not knowing that he created a
Yeah.
tunnel for him to
There
go
you go.
through or
That's
something
way
like
better
that.
already.
And he's under the city. He's like, what is this? And
It
he's
could have
like, oh,
also
it's just
sold the idea that he wasn't a god yet.
right, exactly.
Because the moment he has this Batman thing where he's literally on top of a
it
building
hits-
looking at
it's
the
hitting
city.
you over the head. It's hitting you over the head with the concept of him being a god. And yeah, there's different ways of going about it. That would have been cheaper too.
It would have been
You
cheaper.
know. But once again, it might have
It's
been.
for the thrills, you know. The audience might have enjoyed it, and I'm not gonna knock on that. There's plenty of movies that I've enjoyed that were also very dumb.
Right.
The New Pacific Rim being one of them. So they don't need to be perfect. I'm not saying
Right.
that, but these are definitely blemishes. I would agree wholeheartedly with your assessments too.
And other than that, I can't.
No, I mean I'm kind of tapped out with the
Yeah.
ugly. I mean I really, the character performances of the religious people definitely bothered me. Like I said. The motorcycle, but other than that, the green screen to me would have been a bad. It wouldn't have been an ugly because it was. I knew it was green screen, but I told myself immediately, okay, low budget, can't afford
Right.
it, turn it off. Motorcycle thing you can avoid because it's just. I mean, it was a white one too.
Yeah.
With flames on it. I mean, that's
Not a fan of the motorcycle.
no.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think we should just really sum up real quick get our categories. Let's just go into our ratings real quick. So directing. What did you? I know the unmotivated shots. I'll just start. I agree with the unmotivated shots. I agree with some
Uneven performances with the rest of the cast. There's a lot of stuff in there.
So to me, it's a 6. Just a solid 6.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't. No, you know what? It's a 5.
Yeah,
to me, it's a solid 5.
I was gonna say 5. Like it's right in the middle. Like not the best. I mean, it didn't completely kill the film, but it was definitely not
Could
the
have
best
been way
directing.
worse. Acting. Overall,
Overall, the acting for me
it was a 4 for me.
It's a 5 for me because I feel like Akshay and Kanji,
they're the ones who made it a 4 for me.
yeah, they elevated it and the other guys brought it down. So it's right smack in the middle for me.
So 5 and 4 for me. Editing, I feel like there was a lot of stuff going on here, and like I mentioned previously, like there was moments where it could have derailed itself, and I feel like the editing is really what kept it together. So to me, it's a 5. But nothing special. There was a lot of weird continuity things that I noticed, especially with jump cutting. That just again, jump cutting is great if it's motivated.
Right.
If it's there to cover a mistake,
I'm going to give the editor a pass because I feel like the direction,
what he was given wasn't the best.
I feel like the direction had an issue to do with that. So I'm going to give it a 7 because it wasn't. It didn't take me out.
I'm actually going to give it a 6 because the Govinda was actually very good.
Yeah.
And it was edited perfectly. So let's do cinematography then. I know let's go with your rating because I know you didn't think it was the best. Simple. And I would include green screen in that. So.
Yeah. I think the green screen brings it down a bit for me, but for the most part, it was solid.
It looks like they shot on film.
Yeah, it definitely looked like film, and it was locked off. Like I could tell, like this was film. This wasn't digital. So it was fine. I mean, I'll give it a 7. I think it was a solid 7.
All right, you're at a 7. I'm at a 6 because it wasn't anything spectacular for me. Soundtrack. That's our bonus variable for this review.
For me, the soundtrack was one of the best parts of it. I'm gonna give that a 9.
A 9, great. I think that's your first 9 ever, so that's good. I'm at a 7. It got the movie from point A to point B. Govinda was like the highlight
and that song
for me.
gets stuck in your head too, in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
So that's it, and then finally story.
I thought the story was probably the best part of this film.
Absolutely.
And I thought, other than the ending, which was a little on the nose, it was a little too easy. It was a really strong story. Like the script. It's based on the play, so the play must be really strong as well.
Right.
So story-wise, it was almost a 10. I give it a 9.
All right, Gian's at a 9. I'm at an 8 because the little moments that I mentioned in the good and the bad really did bring me out. And if those were resolved, it would be a perfect movie.
Right.
Genuinely. So that puts our final totals at Gian is a solid 7 and I am a solid 6.
And that's
about fair.
Yeah, and the interesting thing though is that before we started the podcast, you actually mentioned that you like this better than PK.
It's funny, huh?
Yeah.
I did mention that, and it's weird. It's just weird how. Maybe it's the categories we used. I don't know, but because to be honest with you, I think it was just having this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. It's a very important exercise for me to talk about movies because there's been movies where I've gone and I've absolutely hated them, like going into our discussions, and I'm like, not that or movies I've loved, and then I kind of okay, I can kind of see the other side, like Blade Runner 2042 or whatever it's called. I love the movie. I still love it. But now I'm like, oh yeah, those moments that you were talking about are issues.
Right.
And it's kind of like this, where it's like, I didn't necessarily get drawn out by like the zooms in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That was there. That was, and then so like I start adding everything up, and I think, you know, and that's not to say that the 6 is a bad score. I mean, it is like, and it's an average score.
Not at all.
But I definitely don't think it was a 7.
But we're not breaking this down like just like how it made us feel completely.
Absolutely.
We're breaking it down on all the different elements of the
Absolutely.
film. So let's to wrap this up, let's just have a little quick discussion about this versus PK.
I like that this film had balls. I feel like PK had some balls, maybe like one ball, but then it also was kind of like it needed to cater to a mass audience,
right,
and really, really cared about that. So it skirted around a lot of the
yes,
issues, and people in the comments even mentioned too that like they didn't go very hard on Islam, but they did on other religions, and I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm not. This movie didn't go hard on Islam, but where it did go hard on, and it was mostly, in my opinion, mostly for Hindu religion for this movie, but it went there.
It went hard in general. That's the best way of putting it. It, like I said earlier in the review, it wasn't attacking Hinduism the way that PK attacked Hinduism, but at the same time, it was broad enough to really cover just religion in general, and it felt like this was more just about organized religion and the people behind it than it was Hinduism necessarily.
And I think that has to do with the fact that our lead had a voice.
Exactly.
And he was basically saying this is all bullshit.
Right.
And PK was super passive, and I'm going to experience the bullshit.
And there was a cuteness, like, fun factor to PK.
Because he is an alien,
yeah,
and he's not from this planet,
and
so of course he doesn't understand
exactly,
X, Y, or Z. This guy's like, I understand all of it, and it is bullshit,
yes,
and I'm going to tell you why it's
exactly.
bullshit.
And I think that's what made this great. That's what I really liked about it more than anything, was that it definitely felt like the independent version of this.
Absolutely.
It's an indie movie versus like a big major.
Which is ironic.
We might be completely wrong about that, but that's what it felt like. Budgetary, like this was an indie movie. The other one was made for mainstream audiences. But because it was an indie film, it could get away with doing this. And that's what I prefer about it.
No, I agree. I prefer this movie over PK, despite what the review
and story wise, this was a better story. It had a better story than PK, and the things that we knocked.
There was no distracting songs. There was no forced love stories in the first 20 minutes.
And the things that we knocked down on this were technical things.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than anything, but the story itself was the strongest point, and that I've said it several times. Story is the most important thing.
It's the most, because it's what gets you to point A to point B.
Exactly.
No matter if I didn't like the directing or some of the acting or the editing or whatever, the story, I still gave the story an 8. You gave it a 9, because that's what's important. That's what we go to watch movies for.
Absolutely.
We can watch directing classes all day long if we want to watch the greats and we want to see how to direct a scene. We just watch fucking Godfather once and we know how to direct any scene we really want to, because that's a masterclass in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Those are free masterclasses in filmmaking. You watch any great movie. The stories are what are not very common, in my opinion. Great stories. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's definitely a very good one, where to the point where it does get you thinking. It does make you really...
Yeah. And I mentioned to you...
Agree with him. You agree with him. That's the thing.
We had a conversation earlier this week for a moment. I said we'll save it for the review. But I watched the first half of this movie at night, and I went to sleep, and I had like a hard time going to sleep. And for whatever reason, it kind of triggered like these existential thoughts in my head about like religion, about
everything he's saying,
just about our realities, like about like our lives and what's next, if there's anything next. And it just like kept me up at night for a little bit, because I was like, why am I like going through all this shit right now? And I wasn't high or anything, or I can't blame it on any chemical thing.
It happens to me a lot, almost every day. I that's like my struggle, my daily
just this
struggle.
Question of existence thing, and the film triggered that somehow. Like,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because not every movie can do that.
Right.
Not every movie can do that. I mean, in terms of like actual thinking, I can only think of a small handful that actually make you like really question yourself, your place in the universe, like all this shit. Like, whoa, what is this? Where are we? I mean, 2001: A Space Odyssey does it for different reasons.
That's funny. Stanley Kubrick film that made me do that was AI.
Well, the Spielberg one. Yeah, that's it's a thing. It's a real thing, because I was going to bring up the AI in 2001 with Hal, and it's like, right now, 2018, that's a real deal thing. That's a thing we have to contend with. That's why I enjoy the Planet of the Apes movies, because yes, they're out there, they're absurd, but if you believe in evolution, if you believe in all this shit, there's no reason why these apes wouldn't be able to evolve with human interactions with that. I mean, we can create AI now. What's to know? Who's to say what we're going to be able to do in 1,000 years? Literally 1,000 years. Because what we can do now in 2018, if we would have told motherfuckers in 1018 that what we can do now, they'd be like, let's burn them. Let's kill them.
There's also the question, too. I mean, this is a podcasting, so let's not get too into it. But, so if you like these kind of conversations, make sure to check out our podcast because we definitely go deep into things like that. Subject, and maybe next podcast we do, we'll like kind of jump into.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you like this conversation. We could start off from right here, and we could just continue it. It just let us know.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to tune in next week when we review the attacks of 2611. Overwhelming response to that. That's our most watched video of lately of the past.
I think
month.
It might have been this year so far in terms of like
of
how
2018.
how well it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna do that next. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to smash the like button. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. Helps other people find the review. Helps us grow the page. You guys have done a great job. In fact, I want to shout out to all you guys out there. Like the page, we've had a nice spike in subscribers in the last 3 or 4 days. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. So
yeah, let's keep it going. As always, give us any feedback, suggestions you have on the show. Anything you'd like to see, maybe things we talk about specifically in the movie. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is supposed to be this ever-growing, changing show where we do listen to people, but we just want to continue to make a better product.
Absolutely. And always remember #DG request if you want us to do the videos you'd like us to
Only
react
trailers,
to.
though.
Only trailers.
Yeah,
Doesn't work for reviews.
The movies, we're kind of going to choose them on our own.
Yeah. Well, 500 likes. That's the new bar. 500 likes. So
we're still going to choose.
Well, we still will, but 500 likes will definitely influence it quite a bit. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out some of these other reviews we have down here, and we will see you next time.